When your son gets married, you hope to gain a new daughter. You dream of a happy, expanded family, full of love and respect. You hope that the woman he loves will also love you. But sometimes, family is not that simple. Sometimes you are not welcomed. You are just tolerated. This is a story about a night when I felt like a stranger in my own son's life, and the unexpected moment that changed everything. What do you think is the most important part of a good relationship with your in-laws? I would love to read your thoughts in the comments. My name is Helen, and my greatest pride in life is my son Mark. I raised my son Mark by myself. His father passed away when he was just a little boy. We did not have much money, but we had a lot of love. Our small home was always a happy place. Mark was my whole world. I worked hard to give him a good education, to teach him to be a kind and honest man. And he was. He grew up to be a wonderful, successful man. I was so proud of him. When he told me he was getting married, I was so happy. Her name was Jessica. She was beautiful, and she came from a very wealthy family. Her world was a world of country clubs, expensive vacations, and important parties. It was very different from my simple, quiet life. But I did not care about that. All I cared about was my son's happiness. I wanted to love the woman he loved. I tried so hard to be a good mother-in-law. I was always kind to her. I never offered my opinion unless she asked. I just wanted to be a part of their new life. But Jessica, she never really let me in. She was always polite to me, but it was a cold, distant politeness. When she would visit my small, simple house, I could see the judgment in her eyes. She would make small, cutting comments. "Oh, Helen, is that your sofa? It's very traditional." Or, "Mark tells me you work at the local library. That must be a very quiet job." She made me feel like my life, the life I was proud of, was not good enough. She made me feel small. My story takes place one evening at their beautiful modern house. They were hosting a dinner party. It was not for family. It was for Jessica's friends, all of them rich and important, and dressed in beautiful, expensive clothes. I felt so out of place in my simple dress, the one I had worn to their wedding. During dinner, the conversation was all about things I did not understand. They talked about skiing in the Alps, about buying art, about their new luxury cars. I just sat quietly, smiling politely, and feeling like an outsider. Then, one of Jessica's friends, a woman with a lot of diamond jewelry, turned to me. "And Helen," she asked, her voice a little too loud, "what do you do to keep busy?" It was a simple, polite question. I was about to tell her about my work at the library, about my love for books and my garden. But before I could speak, my daughter-in-law, Jessica, laughed. It was a small, tinkling, and very cruel laugh. "Oh, my mother-in-law has a very simple life," she said to her friends, but her voice was loud enough for the whole table to hear. "She has her little garden and her books, and she watches her television shows. It is all very sweet, really." Her friends all smiled those small, polite, pitying smiles. In one sentence, she had described my entire life as a small, simple, and unimportant thing. She had made me sound like a child. I felt my face turn red with humiliation. I looked across the table at my son, at Mark. I was hoping he would say something. I was hoping he would defend me, but he did not. He just looked down at his plate, his face uncomfortable. He did not want to upset his wife. He did not want to make a scene at her important dinner party. He chose his wife's comfort over his mother's dignity. And his silence was more painful than his wife's cruel words. The rest of the dinner was a blur of quiet pain. I did not say another word. I just moved the food around on my expensive plate, and I smiled my fake, polite smile. The conversation at the table continued, full of loud laughter and stories about money. But my son, Mark, was quiet. He did not look at me. He did not look at his wife. He just stared at his plate, his face a tight, unhappy mask. I thought he was quiet because he was ashamed of me, his simple mother. My heart, which was already so broken, broke a little more. I just wanted the night to be over. Finally, the main course was finished. The waiters were clearing the plates, and Jessica was telling her friends a funny story about a terrible hotel she had stayed at in Milan. Everyone was laughing. I just sat there, waiting for a quiet moment when I could leave without making a scene. But then, my son stood up. He picked up his water glass and a small spoon. He tapped the glass, a soft, clear ringing sound. The laughter and the conversation at the table stopped. Everyone turned to look at him. Jessica looked at him with a proud smile, thinking he was going to make a toast to her or her important friends. Mark was not looking at his wife. He was looking at me. "Excuse me, everyone," he said, his voice quiet, but so full of a strange, new emotion that the whole room was completely silent. "Jessica, you and your friends have been talking about your very impressive lives tonight. And you are right, they are very impressive." He paused. "But for a moment, I would like to talk about my mother's simple life." Jessica's smile disappeared. She looked at him, confused. "Mark, what are you doing?" she whispered. He ignored her. He was still looking at me. "You see," he said to the table, "my mother's life is simple now. But it was not always simple. She had to make it simple. My father died when I was 5. My mother was left alone, with a small child and no money. So she worked. She worked 2 jobs. She cleaned houses during the day, and she was a waitress at night. She would come home so tired, her body would be in pain. But she would always have a smile for me. She would help me with my homework. She would read me a story." His voice was getting stronger, full of a deep, powerful love. My mother did not travel to the Alps. Her big adventure was trying to pay the rent every month. She did not buy expensive art. She would hang my simple, childish drawings on the wall, and she would say they were the most beautiful pictures in the world. She gave up everything. Her own dreams, her own chances for a new life. She gave it all to me. My mother's life is not sweet, Jessica. It is a story of a strength you cannot even imagine. Everything I have in my life, my education, my job, my success, it is all built on the foundation of her simple life. It is a gift from her. The room was completely silent. Jessica's face was pale with shock and a new, terrible humiliation. Her friends could not look at her. They just stared at the table. Mark was not finished. He looked at his wife, and his eyes were cold. "And no one," he said, his voice a low, angry whisper. "No one in this world has the right to make fun of it." Then he did something that I will never forget. He walked away from his important friends, from his beautiful, shocked wife. He walked over to me, to his simple mother at the end of the table. He took my hand. "Come on, Mom," he said, his voice soft again. "Let's go home." And he led me out of that cold, beautiful room, leaving his wife and her world completely behind. The car ride back to my small, quiet house was silent, but it was not an empty silence. It was a silence full of a million unspoken emotions. I looked at my son, at his strong, handsome profile in the dark. My heart was a mix of a fierce, burning pride and a deep, sad worry for him. He had just stood up to his wife, to his new, powerful world, for me. He had chosen me. And I knew that his choice would have consequences. When we arrived at my house, I made us a cup of tea, just like I used to do when he was a boy, and he had a hard day at school. We sat at my small kitchen table. "Michael," I said, my voice soft, "you did not have to do that. She is your wife." He looked up at me, and his eyes were full of a new, sad clarity. "No, Mom," he said. "I did have to do that. I should have done that a long time ago. I am so sorry. For all the times I was quiet. For all the times I let her say small, cruel things, and I pretended not to hear. I was so in love with her world, with her money and her success, that I forgot what was really important. I forgot the values that you taught me. Tonight, when she said that about your life, I saw her clearly for the first time, and I saw myself, and I was so ashamed. He told me he did not know what would happen to his marriage. He knew that his wife Jessica was a proud woman, and he had just publicly humiliated her. "But I know one thing," he said, his voice firm. "I will not live in a marriage where my mother is not respected. Kindness and respect. That is the foundation of a family. Not money, not status." He did not stay the night. He said he had to go home and face his wife. He had to have the hard conversation. He hugged me at the door, a long, strong hug. "I love you, Mom," he said. "You are the strongest person I know." As I watched him drive away, my heart was full of a new peace. I was not worried anymore. My son was a good man. He was the man I had raised him to be, and he would be okay. The next day he called me. His voice was tired, but it was calm. He told me that he and Jessica had talked all night. She was very, very angry. She could not believe that he had chosen his simple mother over her. She had given him a choice, an ultimatum. "It is me or her," she had said. "So I made my choice," Mark told me on the phone. "I told her that you are my mother. You are a part of me, and you will always be a respected, honored part of my life. I told her that she had to call you and give you a real, honest apology. And I told her that if she could not treat you with kindness and respect from now on, then our marriage was over." I was so shocked. "What did she say?" I asked. "She needs time to think," he said. I did not know what would happen to their marriage. But in that moment, it did not matter. My son had found his voice. He had found his heart. The fear I had of losing him to his new rich life was completely gone. No matter what happened next, I knew that I had not lost my son. In fact, I had just gotten him back. I did not know what would happen to my son's marriage, but I was at peace. The fear of losing my son, a fear that I had carried in my heart for years, was gone. He had shown me, and he had shown his wife, where his heart truly was. He was a good and loyal man. He was the man I had raised him to be. And that was all that mattered. A few days later, I received a phone call. It was Jessica. Her voice was cold and formal. There was no warmth in it. "Helen," she said, "Mark has told me that I need to apologize to you. So, I am sorry for my comments at the dinner party. It was inappropriate." It was not a real apology. It was not an apology from the heart. It was the apology of a person who had lost a fight and who was doing what she had to do to save her marriage. I knew in that moment that she had not really changed, but I also knew that she had lost her power over me. "Thank you, Jessica," I said, my voice calm and polite. "I accept your apology." And that was it. The conversation was over. Jessica did not leave my son. Their marriage continued. But it was a different marriage. It was a marriage with new rules. And the most important rule was that my son's mother would be treated with respect. Jessica was never a warm or loving daughter-in-law to me. We did not become friends. But she was always, from that day on, perfectly polite. The small cutting comments stopped. The condescending looks were gone. She knew that her husband was a strong man, a man who would always stand up for his mother. My relationship with my son became the greatest joy of my life. He would call me every day, not out of duty, but just to talk. We became real friends, in a new adult way. Our Sunday dinners continued, but now they were often at my small, simple house. my son and my daughter-in-law would come to me. And in my home, my world, I was not the small, unimportant one. A year later, I became a grandmother. My granddaughter is the light of my life. I looked at my son, holding his new baby girl, and I saw the circle of life, the circle of love. I saw the legacy of my own hard work, of my own sacrifices. My daughter-in-law may never truly love me, but she respects me. And my son loves me with a deep and proven and unbreakable love. That night at the dinner party was so painful. I felt so small, so humiliated. But my son's love was a fire that burned away all that pain. And he showed me that a mother's love is the most powerful investment in the world. It always pays back. If this story about a son's love and a mother's strength was meaningful to you, please give this video a like. What is the most important value you learned from your mother? Share your beautiful memories in the comments. For more emotional English stories about the power of family, please be sure to follow our channel.